Well, here's something a bit different. Now, I have to confess that until a couple of weeks ago, I didn't even know these things existed, and I've got to say a big thank you to Jan and Wayne on the Office of Steam forum, I was reading through one of their posts, and they were talking about these rather lovely compressors. And what it is, it's a KJ Miller air compressor. Now, KJ Miller made an amazing steam engine, which was, I've done many videos on them, where it's reconfigurable. You basically get a box of parts and you can make 3 different configurations of steam engine out of the same one. And they were absolutely brilliant, and I love those. And I was amazed when I saw the posting that on the Office of Steam forum about these compressors, because I had no idea that KJ Miller made these things. So I immediately started a hunt on eBay and managed to find one on eBay in the UK, which is, again, you know, very lucky, because these compressors were made in the States. Now, as you can see, this one is extremely filthy. It's obviously probably living in a garage or a barn for most of its life. But I think it will clean up. Everything turns, and when you rotate the pulley on the compressor, you get air coming out of the top, which is what you'd expect. So it is actually working. It just needs a damn good cleanup. The other nice feature on this is that the motor that it comes with, it's by Sutrick, which was a UK company, and they are made in London. And the motor is actually, it's quite amazing, the motor is actually sprung. There's a big spring on it, so you can tip it forwards like that, and that will take up the tension on the belt, which I thought was quite clever, actually. Now, like the guys on the Office of Steam forum, I'd quite like to try running this off of a steam engine, but I think I'm going to put it on a new base, but I think I will leave that original motor, assuming that the motor works, so that I can run it from either that motor or a steam engine, because I really like that little motor. I think it's fantastic. It suits the compressor perfectly. So yeah, so there we go. A KJ Miller air compressor. I need to have a word with the guys on the forum and find out what sort of date these things were, you know, when they were made, when they were produced. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a project, this one. But yeah, it should be good when it's finished. Okay, so I've given the KJ Miller compressor a good strip down, and it's all come apart very easily. One thing I would say is, if you're going to get one of these and you are going to take it apart, be very careful when you separate the head from this part, because the diaphragm, this little thing here, has a little tiny spring that sits on top of it, and it's very easy to lose that. I will testify to that fact. So be careful when you do that. As I said, I've parts washed it, cleaned all the crud off. The internals seem to be very good. The castings are actually quite nice on the inside. There's not all flot corrosion or anything, and that applies to all of them. So although it was filthy on the outside, actually internally it's a very good condition. So the next stage is to try and remove all of the paint. I'd really like to repaint it in the same colour, but I have a strong feeling that the original colour, it's a kind of very light metallic hammer finish green. I have a feeling that that is an old Hammerite colour called mid green, which they don't make anymore. So I'm going to have a look on the internet, see if I can find something suitable, which won't be the same. So yeah, so the next job is to strip all the old paint off and clean up any rust. There's some rust on the base plate here. So that's what we'll do next. Well, sadly, the internals of the motor are not quite as nice as the internals of the compressor. The internal wiring, the insulation on the wires has hardened, cracked, and basically it's just falling apart. It just crumbles away. So I've got to see if I can rewire the internals of the motor. The armature is not in too bad a condition, and the commutator will clean up quite nicely, and obviously the case can be cleaned, but the actual wiring is the bit that's shot. So I don't know whether I can save that or not, which is a shame. I spent some time working on the castings today, and they cleaned up really well. It was a 2-part process, mainly paint stripper, my normal oven mate paint stripper, which worked well on some parts. It did work very well on the pressed steel base, but it didn't work so well on the aluminium castings or the cast iron casting, which is the cylinder. Anyway, it did do some. It did take some of the paint off, and then I finished them up on the on my brass wire wheel, and they've come up really nice. So now it's just a matter of figuring out what paint to use, and we can start the finishing off process. Well, it finally warmed up enough here in the UK for me to be able to get outside and put some paint on the compressor parts. It's been a few days now, so it's all nicely hardened off, and we are ready to put it back together. The KJ Miller compressor is finally finished. Fortunately, we've had some nice weather over the last week or so here in the UK, so I was able to get outside and do a little bit of paint spraying, and it's come out really well, I think. I opted for a metallic blue, which is a plastic coat metallic blue. Obviously, it's been the bare metal was etch primed first, but yeah, you can't really. I'm convinced that the original paint is a hammerite green, which you can't get anymore. So I thought, well, given the fact that this is a 1960s bit of kit, I thought this paint was it went very well with the time period. So yeah, it's turned out very nicely. I'm well pleased with it. I'm particularly pleased with the fact that I was able to resurrect the electric motor. As you probably remember, when it got this thing, it was all in a bit of a state, and the electric motor was completely shot. When I took it apart, all the insulation had cracked and fallen off the internal wiring. So I rewired it, keeping my fingers crossed that there was nothing wrong with the windings, and cleaned the commutator up, and it's fine. In fact, I'll run it in a minute and we can have a look at it going. But yeah, it all went back together well, and it runs really well, and it creates a fair puff coming out the top there when it's running. But like many other people have said about these, you're going to have to clamp it down when you use it, particularly with the electric motor, because it just bounces around all over the place. But yeah, no, there it is. That's it done. So we'll stop the turntable and we'll take it off the turntable and we'll run it. Right, I'm going to hold it and turn it on. If I let go, you can see what it does. As I say, it bounces around all over the place. But obviously it's working, and it's creating quite a bit of puff. I'll see if I can find something that we can connect it up to actually, show you it running with some air pressure. Well, what better than the air engine to try on the air pump compressor? So I've got it clamped down with an F-clamp at this end of the table, and now, okay, the air engine doesn't really require a lot of pressure to run, but it leaks a lot of air, so you do actually have to have at least, it'll only run on a few psi, but because it leaks so much air, you need at least sort of 10-15 psi to get it running. So we'll try that with the compressor. Oh, there you go, look, started up all on its own. So that's not bad going at all. But it's even still moving even now. Anyway, I just thought I'd show it working and actually doing something. Let's turn it off before it dances off of the bench. So yeah, it does actually work, and it's pumping out quite a bit of pressure, which I'm really pleased about. So yeah, so that's it really for the KJ Miller compressor from the 1960s. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed doing the restoration on this. It's nice to do something. I love steam engines, but it's nice to do something a little bit better now and again. And this has made a nice change. And I haven't done any electric motor wiring in donkey's years. So that was interesting. So yeah, amazing. It actually worked. So there you go. That's the KJ Miller compressor. Hope you've enjoyed this video again. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.